First time you open up ChemSketch, you might be sort of intimidated by the range of options, icons, etc. that you might see. But in reality there are very, very few that we actually need to be able to draw structures. Okay, and these are the ones we're going to be concentrating on today. Now, if we go to the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the sort of atom selectors. At the moment C is selected, and just pressing on any other ones will select those in turn. Right, so back to C. Now we've got a good range here. These are the most common ones we're likely to use, but if there are any that you need to use that aren't in this list, you can actually access them from here, which throws up a periodic table. Right, above these we've got a range of icons here which are actually selection icons, and we'll be using these today as well. This is for actually selecting your structure so you can copy and paste it, for example, or manipulate it in certain ways. Another very important icon is this one, which is like two interlocking arrows. Now what this does is actually cleans up structures. Any structure that we draw in here, we don't have to be too precise about it, because the program will sort it out and make it absolutely pristine. Right, before you start doing anything, you have to look at the sort of defaults. Now if you go up to Tools and you press Structure Properties, a new window opens. Now this window will probably look something like this on the first time you open it. This is the important bit, okay, where it says Show Carbons. When you open it for the first time, it's very likely that where it says All, Show Carbons All, that is unchecked. Now if you leave it like that, you'll never see your carbons, which is going to be pretty useless. Right, so here just click, make sure that that is selected, and then press Set Default. It's now the default, you don't need to worry about it, it will always show carbons. Right, so let's build up some structures. Now the basic rule for building up structures is that we build up the carbon chain first. Okay, that's always the way. Then we can worry about the hydrogens, then we can worry about other things as well. Okay, so let's start off with the simplest possibility, and that's methane. So make sure that the C is selected. Now if I click anywhere on the screen, it'll make a methane molecule, okay, a methane formula. Click anywhere else, more will be made. Now we only really need one, so here with the selection tool, just delete that one and concentrate on the other. Okay, now that is a formula. It's not a structural formula. There are no bonds. How do we make bonds? Well, to see the CH bonds, we now need to select H from this palette, and then as I move the cursor over the formula, you can see how it highlights. Now I'm now pressing down on the mouse button and pulling out, and you can see an H on a bond, and it's reduced the number of hydrogens in the formula. Okay, again, there's another one, there's another, there's the last. So now I've got a pretty crude methane structural formula. Now you can see this bond's too long, it's kind of a funny angle, so it's not great. But if I select the whole thing by just clicking that icon, dragging a box over it, press this button here, we clean up the structure. Okay, so select that, I can actually copy it and paste. Right, so that's copied. Now I could open up Word, open up PowerPoint, etc., etc., and paste that in as a pretty good sort of structural formula. Right, while we're talking about the sort of selection tools, you'll notice this one. We generally use this to select molecules, but there's two options here. Right, with this one we get a bounding box, which is the most useful. With this one, if it's in this state, you get a lasso, and that's a little bit awkward at times to use. So it's preferable to always have that box. Right, use this selection tool with that option, so you've got a bounding box. Right, that was methane, simple molecule. How about building something a little more complicated? Right, let's start with an alkane, and let's start with propane. So that's 3 carbons long. Again, so click on C. I've just clicked down I've not lifted my finger off the mouse button. I'm dragging out. I lift my finger and we've got 2. Click down again on the mouse button. 3. Okay, and I could keep on going for any length of carbon chain as I need. Right, pull out the hydrogens, so select H again. From each one of these carbons, pull out the corresponding hydrogens. And we've made propane. Select the whole thing. Clean up the structure. Okay. Right, how about alkenes? Let's just draw ethene, for example, the simplest of alkenes. So 2 carbons long, carbon selected, pull out. Right, now if I was to pull out the hydrogens, obviously it would make ethane. When I move my cursor over the bond, you'll see it selects. And if I actually click on that while it's selected like that, it now makes 2 bonds. Okay, a double bond. If I clicked on it again, it would make a triple bond, but that's not particularly useful to us. Right, so again we can now pull out the hydrogens. Select the whole thing, clean up the structure, and then we can do whatever we like with that. Right, now there is a way to do alkenes. That was it. There's a way not to do them. Okay. Right, let's try and make it a different way. Now you'll notice the first way we did it, we just pulled out the backbone and then we clicked on the bond. Right? If you pull out the hydrogens first and you try that, nothing happens. Right? The reason is it's kind of got fixed numbers of hydrogens on each side and it can't draw that double bond in. It's clever enough to realise a double bond's impossible. Okay? So that's not the way to do it. Just draw your backbone first, put the double bonds in, then pull the hydrogens out. Right, let's get rid of that. Right, how about things which aren't hydrocarbons? How about functional groups? What functional groups have we got to worry about? Alcohols, carboxylic acid, and esters. So let's make ethanol. 2 carbons long. Okay. And press the O now. If I go to this C where I want the alcohol to be and then pull out, you'll see we've got an OH group. So that's basically our backbone for our alcohol. Pull out the H's, making no effort at all to be neat. Don't need to. Correct. Okay. Copy and paste that, whatever we want. How about acids? Okay, propanoic acid. That's 3 carbons long. 1, 2, and 3. Now if we press on O again and I pull out once, I make an alcohol. But if I want to make the start of a carboxylic acid, if I go back to that C, and still with O selected there, press on that and pull out to the O, you can see it's made a double bond out. Remember, we're still on O here. Pull out again, you've got a carboxylic acid. Pull out hydrogens to make the full structural formula. Select, clean up, propanoic acid. Okay, how about an ester? Well, an ester differs from a carboxylic acid in the fact that instead of a hydrogen here, we get a carbon chain. Right, for example, a 2 carbon chain. So let's go to C, click on the O, pull out again, and we've actually got an ester. And select the whole thing, clean it up, and we can drag and drop that to wherever we like.